People don't put up with abuse of children. We as a society have a responsibility to protect young people and to keep them safe.
Bexar County residents immediately react to one of the most horrific cases of child abuse we've seen in a while. The local group that is giving everyone a chance to take care of other children who might be in similar trouble. On the run for more than a decade, how a 2-hour window is all a couple of fugitives needed to disappear from a South Texas prison.
Hey there. Is that a pet python in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
And let's get the obvious joke out of the way. Is that a snake in your pants, or are you just a really bad thief? Let's see how pet store employees had a bigger bite than this alleged pet snake stealer. South Texas Most Wanted starts right now. On any given day, there are more than 20,000 open warrants in Bexar County alone. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. Good evening and welcome to tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. You know, you talk to law enforcement and they'll tell you there's nothing more dangerous than a criminal who has nothing to lose. Now that holds doubly true for criminals who have escaped from prison. That's what has our first fugitive on the run for more than a decade now. He's managed to avoid one massive manhunt. We're hoping he cannot avoid you. The United States Marshals Service is looking for information on the whereabouts of Oscar Errada Herrera. A difficult name to say and apparently a difficult man to find. Law enforcement officials say there is an active warrant for Errada Herrera for escaping from the Frio County Correctional Facility in Pearsall. Way back in September of 2003, Errada Herrera and another man escaped from that facility and sparked a massive manhunt throughout South Texas and Western Texas, but neither inmate has ever been captured. According to published reports, the U.S. Marshals Service says there were no signs of a forced escape and no one was injured during the incident. Errada Herrera and the other inmate were last accounted for inside the jail at 9 in the morning. At the next head count, just 2 hours later, both were gone. We should note that back in 2003, the Frio County Detention Center was being run by a private company out of Florida. The Frio County Sheriff's Department runs it now, at least for now. Now, at the time of his escape, Errada Herrera was facing multiple charges for conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute cocaine and heroin charges as well. Now, authorities are not saying just how much cocaine or heroin that we're talking about, but obviously it was enough to motivate Errada Herrera to not stick around and face those charges. Now, he was already facing more than 2.5 years behind bars on the heroin charges. The escape charges could carry a 5-year sentence, and then there are those pesky cocaine charges. Now, before his arrest, our alleged escapee was living both here in San Antonio and in Laredo, but authorities say he was born in Nuevo, across the border there from Laredo, and is still a Mexican citizen. However, it is possible with so many ties to Texas that the 42-year-old likely may come back our way every once in a while. Oscar Errada Herrera has been a fugitive on the run for more than a decade now. You can help that time run out tonight. If you have any information on this man, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. Make the difference. Make the call.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vanessa Gallegos, and authorities could use your help finding these next two suspects who are currently on the run and who both prove if you can't afford the time, you can't afford the crime. Mario Alanis is wanted for theft of between $1,500 and $20,000. At this amount, in the state of Texas, this is considered a state jail felony, and the punishment could go up if the stolen item is a firearm or livestock. Yes, I said livestock. The punishment could range from 6 months in jail to 2 years with a $10,000 fine. Now, the last known address for the 32-year-old Alanis is off of Wilderness Street. That's out of Highway 281, past Loop 1604, off of TPC Parkway. And Alanis is known to frequent that area. By comparison, Henry Martinez has committed what the state of Texas classifies as a petty crime. But it is only petty if you are not doing the punishment. Martinez is charged with theft of between $50 and $500. I'll say it again, $50, and $500. The state actually considers this the same crime as stealing someone's driver's license. Still, Henry Martinez is now looking at up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. Authorities say Martinez could be hanging out around his baby mama's house. If you don't know what that means, ask the youngest person in the room, and that would be in the Somerset area. If you have any information on Mario Alanis or Henry Martinez, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, that's 210-462-1747.
He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but instead, authorities say he has chosen to spend the last 9 years looking over his shoulder and hiding out. That's what has this next fugitive as one of our South Texas Most Wanted. Anthony Joe Paredes is wanted by the U.S. Marshal Service for having an active warrant for violating conditions of his pretrial release. Back in December of 2006, Paredes was sentenced to 6 years in prison after being convicted of charges of possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Now, before he was officially hauled off to prison, Paredes was released on bond in order to self-surrender to the Federal Bureau of Prisons on or before February of 2007, just a few weeks after the conviction. Now, this sometimes happens when a judge allows a person to take care of some personal business or family obligations before doing their time. I bet you can't guess what happened next. According to the marshals, Paredes allegedly violated conditions of his pretrial release when he never showed up to go to prison. That's right, Paredes took a pass on 6 years behind bars to spend the last 9 years hiding out and looking over his shoulder. I don't make the rules, I just report them. We are told that Anthony Joe Paredes has very close ties to family and friends here in San Antonio and in Laredo, but considering how much time he spent in Texas, it is likely he still visits, and fleeing to Mexico does not mean you can escape the law. If you have any information on Anthony Joe Paredes, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. Still to come, the case that shocked Bexar County has actually sparked dozens of residents to take action and prepare to help our children. Plus, your tips and information already paying off in a big way. We're going to show you how. South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back. It's a child abuse case that shocked all of Bexar County. It made national news. 2 children chained up like dogs in the back of a Northeast Side home. 6 more children found hungry and alone inside. Now, unfortunately, it's not the first time we've seen a case like this, and each time it sparks dozens of local residents to take action, and one group that is uniquely qualified to help you do that is welcoming those volunteers.
Grown men who see the worst of the worst cried, and all of us are heartbroken by it. In this situation, our deputies received a phone call from a neighbor who was concerned that there was child abuse occurring in this home. The neighbor told deputies that they could hear a child crying for more than 2 hours, and they were concerned about it. So our deputies responded, they went to the house, they had to get a ladder to look into the backyard. Whenever they did that, they could see 2 toddlers who were tied up. The little boy was chained to the ground with a metal chain with very little slack. The little girl was tied up to a door with a dog leash.
It was a scene that no one who saw will soon forget, and those who heard have been sparked to action. The horrific case of child abuse found at this Northeast Bexar County home on April 29th has resulted in the arrest of 3 people. Cheryl Reed, who lived in the home and was mother of several of the children, according to authorities, and Perucha Phillips and DeAndre Dortch, who also had children in that home. All are facing various child abuse charges, but the case also resulted in a mass reaction from the public, who have turned out to places like CASA, Child Advocates of San Antonio.
We're excited because this is the largest class of 60 since 1984 that we've had here at CASA. To serve the over 2,000 children that we're not, or 3,000 children actually, that we're not serving right now, we would need another 800 volunteers. So that's a lot of volunteers, because every single month in Bexar County alone, 135 children are removed from their parents or guardians.
We've been inundated with people who want to help. They want to do something for these children. And what we tell them is these children are safe, they're out of harm's way, but there are countless more children who are here in Bexar County who you will never see on a TV screen, and they need the help too.
The difference in these cases is somebody spoke up and these children did not lose their lives. But I can definitely correlate the outpouring of support for CASA with those cases. Unfortunately, you know, those cases are horrendous and those kids are getting the help they need and they will be okay.
People won't tolerate child abuse. It's something that even the prisoners and the inmates won't tolerate. The woman who was initially arrested in this situation has found herself subject to threats. We've had to move her to a separate holding cell. People don't put up with abuse of children.
They have to take action. That the kids that are being abused, neglected, are right here in their own backyards.
We're grateful that neighbors were courageous enough to give us a call, and that's the message we have for everyone.
All 8 of the children rescued from that northeast side Bexar County home are recovering and doing much better, but as you heard, CASA is dealing with hundreds of kids who are coming from similar circumstances. If you want more information, contact our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. Now, still to come, what if the U.S. government held you for really no charges, didn't really tell you how long they were going to hold you either? Would you make a run for it? Our next fugitive did just that, but he still has some answering to do, and it's a national group helping our local veterans and really veterans nationwide. They have very strong roots here in Bexar County. We're going to show you why. More South Texas Most Wanted coming up. Josias Felicio de Sosa is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active arrest warrant for allegedly violating the conditions of his bond release. More than a decade ago, back in 2004, Felicio de Sosa was charged as a federal material witness. Now, that statute is meant to allow the government to detain a person until they can testify in front of a grand jury or at trial. Now, since 9/11, use of this statute has been highly controversial because the U.S. government has used it to detain people without charges for an indefinite period of time. It is even unclear what type of punishment Felicio de Sosa would face, considering he was never really charged with a crime. Apparently, Josias Felicio de Sosa wanted no part of any of this. Just 2 months after being released on bond, he allegedly violated the conditions of his release when he failed to appear for court, failed to report to his pretrial services officer, and absconded from supervision. He took off. The 39-year-old also presents a special circumstance since he lived mostly here in San Antonio, but also in Boston, and he was born in Brazil, so he's a citizen there. Authorities do believe, though, he is still stateside, and Felicio de Sosa spent more than enough time in San Antonio to make some long-lasting friends and relationships. If you know anything about where authorities can find Josias Felicio de Sosa, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, that's 210-462-1747. Make the difference. Make the call.
Good evening. I'm Vanessa Gallegos. Tonight, more proof that no one can escape the law, especially with the help of our South Texas Most Wanted viewers. 24-year-old Sydney Miller was wanted on a charge of possession of dangerous drugs. This charge is really possession of a prescription drug that doesn't belong to you. Normally things like Xanax and Valium. Now, any amount of a dangerous drug less than 28 grams is considered a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail. Sydney Miller last lived in San Antonio on the south side of town, but authorities ended up picking him up in Florida, proving again you cannot outrun Johnny Law. Also tonight, police have 22-year-old Abel Reyes back behind bars. Reyes was wanted for possession of child pornography and aggravated sexual assault of a child. Obviously very serious charges. Reyes is facing a minimum of 20 years behind bars, and depending on the circumstances of the crime, it could get a lot worse. Reyes was picked up at a family member's home on the city's east side. Your tips and information are making all the difference. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
Welcome back. Well, forget how much is that doggy in the window. Tonight we have a case of How much for that snake in your pants? I'm not the first to say it, but yes, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, especially in Florida, as JT Street proves in tonight's They Say You Did What?
This next story hits all the highlights of the head-shakingly stupid true crime variety. It's set in Florida, involves a suspect with a neck tattoo, vigilante justice, and a crook trying to leave a pet store with a python in his pants. Really? This is true? We can't do this story. It's too easy. Go on to the next one. No. All right, we'll do it. He earned it. So according to WFLA TV, Travis Treader, it's Florida, that's his name, walked into a pet store and, in full view of security cameras, grabbed a python from its cage and stuck it down his pants, which is an excellent way to come down with a bad case of herpetology. It's true. Look it up. Not only was Treader caught on camera, but store owners say they had his photo at the register, because he'd tried to pull the 5-finger no legs discount before. So when they saw it go down on video, they confronted him, and in doing so blew their chance at being part of the best joke in history, because they didn't walk up to him and say, "Hey there, is that a pet python in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?" Well, as it turns out, Travis wasn't happy to see them, especially when they accused him of stealing, so he tried to run off with his new trouser snake. That didn't fly, though, because in true Florida justice fashion, customers were there to bar the door, hog-tie him with zip ties, and wait for the cops to show up. Travis was charged with petty pet python pants theft, which is far more fun to say than it is to try and do. While Travis was accused of snake stealing and merchant assault, the true crime here is whoever wrote the story for WFLA, because they had all this comedy gold to work with, and the best they could come up with was, "The merchant said the suspect is one snake he hopes to never see again." Yeah! For South Texas's Most Wanted, I'm JT Street with this week's They Say You Did What?
So many snakes in the pants jokes, so little time. Thanks a lot, JT. Still to come, a group that's a national organization, but they're rooted heavily here in San Antonio, and they're making a difference for our veterans, and they're another reason they call San Antonio Military City, USA. More South Texas Most Wanted to come.
33,000 handmade blankets, 700,000 care packages sent. That's just the start of how the group, Soldiers Angels, has reached out to almost 735,000 armed service members. Now, this is a national organization, but the major part of the leadership is located right here in San Antonio, and for good reason. That is what makes them our South Texas Most Wanted difference maker.
Hi, my name's Mary. I'm working with Soldiers Angels, and today out here we are partnering with the San Antonio Food Bank and the Vet Center to provide 50 pounds of food to 200 veterans. We find that there's a need here in San Antonio for our veterans and military, so we partner with the San Antonio Food Bank. We've got them signed up here. They go up here and they sign in and they go through and get a line here. And our wonderful volunteers help them put their food into their vehicles. And we couldn't do any of this here without the San Antonio Food Bank and our partnership with them.
volunteer work here. This is a great thing that we're doing today. I also do Feed the Homeless on Wednesdays, and I have a group called the God's Guardian Angels.
If you know of a group or an individual who are making a difference in South Texas, contact us on our Facebook page or call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Trudy Stone.
May no soldier go unloved. That is the stated goal of Soldiers Angels, and that includes our veterans, our wounded warriors, those who are deployed right now, and of course their families. As Trudy said, if you know of anyone making a difference, big or small, give us a call. Now, still to come, how your calls can make South Texas a safer place. We'll be right back. Before we let you go, here's one last look at some of the fugitives featured here tonight. The U.S. Marshal Service is looking for information on the whereabouts of Oscar Herrada Herrera. Officials say there's an active warrant for Herrada Herrera for escaping from the Frio County Correctional Facility in Pearsall. Way back in September of 2003, Herrada Herrera and another inmate escaped from that facility and sparked a massive manhunt throughout South Texas and Western Texas, but neither inmate has ever been captured. The two were last accounted for inside the jail at 9 in the morning. At the next head count, just a couple hours later, both were gone. At the time of his escape, Herrada Herrera was facing multiple charges for conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. There were also some old heroin charges as well. Our alleged escapee was living both here in San Antonio and in Laredo, but authorities say he was born in Nuevo Laredo. However, it's possible the 42-year-old comes back to Texas every once in a while. Meanwhile, Anthony Joe Paredes is wanted by the U.S. Marshal Service. Back in December of 2006, Paredes was sentenced to 6 years in prison after being convicted of charges of possession with intent to distribute cocaine as well. Paredes was released on bond in order to self-surrender to the jail system on or before February of 2007, just a few weeks after the conviction. According to marshals, Paredes never showed up to go to prison, instead spending the last 9 years on the run. We are told that Anthony Joe Paredes has very close ties to family and friends here in San Antonio and in Laredo. Mario Alanis is wanted for theft of between $1,500 and $20,000 at this amount in the state of Texas. This is considered a state jail felony, and the punishment could go up to 2 years if the stolen item is a firearm or livestock, and will also a $10,000 fine. Now, the last known address for the 32-year-old Alanis is off of Wilderness Street. That's out Highway 281, past Loop 1604 off of TPC Parkway. And Alanis is known to frequent that area. And Henry Martinez has committed what the state classifies as a petty crime. It's only petty if you're not doing the time. Martinez is charged with theft between $50 and $500. The state actually considers this the same type of crime as stealing someone's driver's license. Still, Henry Martinez is looking up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. Authorities say Martinez could be hanging out in the Somerset area. Now, if you have any information on any of these suspects, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. As always, make the difference. Make that call. That's going to do it for South Texas Most Wanted tonight. I'm Michael Valdez. For all of our late crew staying up late for you, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.